Today's guest is somebody who I really look up to, and somebody who you may already know if your association with Bosch has happened the last 5 to 6 years. It's none other than Vijay Ratnaparkhe. Vijay is somebody who is amazing as a personality. I had the pleasure of meeting him many times before this podcast. And each time I left the conversation feeling a lot more happy, inspired, and full of joy and happiness. When he's talking to you, listening to it, almost as if it feels as if me and you are the only person. Him and me are the only person in the room, and he listens to you with such keenness and such authenticity, and he's there as a person. Um, so he's currently the president of Bosch, Southeast Asia, Bosch ASEAN. He has worked in various leadership roles across Bosch, including when I met him, he was the president of RBEI, or now it is called BGSW, Bosch Global Software Solutions Limited. And so when I met him for the first time, I was a normal associate across maybe 27,000 plus people, and he was the president of the organization. But it felt like I was talking to somebody I knew from a very, very, very long time. 1 hour with him, with lunch, and a lot of conversations, just seemed to roll just like that. And after that, too, our conversations have had uh, some amazing outputs out of our conversations. I met him mostly as the person that he is, the gentleman that he is, and all the space is explored and shared in this particular conversation. The person side of Vijay, and this is something that absolutely fascinated me. That after a few messages, he said, "Pungi, let's do it." And on a Saturday morning, we caught up, had this conversation, and I would love to hear your thoughts on how this conversation was for you. And yeah, I am absolutely having that fanboy moment and the joyous moment of meeting somebody that inspires me. So here's the conversation with Vijay. And just before we start, the first time I met him when he was the president, it was the fantastic conversation. And almost 9 months later, when I had taken a sabbatical, come back to office, and I met him in the lift. The only change between then and now was that he had a mustache, and I couldn't recognize him initially. But he just looked at me twice and said, "Pungi," and then he was like, he had that question mark face, and I'm like, "Oh, hi, Vijay," and that's when we rekindled that conversation. So imagine somebody, who is the president of an organization, meets hundreds of people over a day, and after 9 months I'm meeting him, and we just catch up on the lift, and he recognizes me from before. That just shows the person that he is, the space that he holds for people. And this conversation too is a gem, one of my favorite podcasts, and one of my favorite guests as well. So enjoy this episode, and do let me know how you feel about it. Without further ado, the episode is for you. So welcome, Vijay, to People, Passion, and Purpose podcast with Pungi. So it's an amazing feeling to have you on the other side. And I guessed it right that you'd be wearing a white t-shirt, fully vibrant and smiling for this podcast. Thank you for coming on board. So really happy to see you.
Thank you for inviting me. Actually, I mean, I don't have many colors in my wardrobe. That's a secret. So it's either light blues or whites, and mostly that. I guess one or the other rare other color.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember my first conversation with you, and I asked you. The only space where I had seen you prior is all the photographs with you with a suit. And
Okay,
seeing you without the suit was, I asked you if you remember saying, Vijay, where is your suit?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I know in Bosch as we changed our attire, let's say from extremely formal to then getting rid of the tie and bringing it down to only what's required. So yeah, those were the
Okay.
steps. And that was one of those days, must be without the suit. Yes.
This is the question I'm going to be asking Vijay. And she was like,
Hmm.
don't do it. And I think, every time I talk about you to people, I'm like, we still in connect, and that is surprises a lot of people. So just to give you a heads up for all the listeners, is that when I met Vijay was the president of Bosch in India, that is PGSW as they now call it, or then called RBEI. And a lot of differentiation or difference in age was there, and also in terms of what our responsibilities were. But we connected pretty instantly, I guess. And that connection has continued to stay after many years. And then I think, there was one incident that we absolutely remember is I think after we first met, so I had gone on a sabbatical and I came back yearish later. And Vijay actually met me in one of the lifts in the office, and he had a mustache on, and I was not able to recognize him instantly. But Vijay had that this thing Pungi, and then I was like, Vijay, and I think that I remember always. I absolutely always remember. So
Yeah.
first question to you, Vijay, is how do you remember so many people?
Also, I don't want to say I do remember. So it's, I mean, there are some blessings. So I do have some blessings, which is my memory is very, very strong. It helped me in life, especially in the school life, and that's a blessing. So that's something I always had. I have it. This is one part, but many of us have it. We either don't touch on it, don't exploit it, and the other one is, as you exactly said, it's not that we remember all of them. We remember some of them. In fact, 3 days back, I was in some inauguration of, I don't want to now give that context, but inauguration one office. And I knew I had met, the assistant to the inauguration, the chief. Chief, I know really well. I went and said hello to him, congratulations, and so on. And I'm saying to the assistant, I have met you maybe a year back. She says, yes, we have met. But I said, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. So it's not that you always remember the names. So and it was okay but I was upfront saying, okay, I don't remember your name, but we have met for sure with. She said, yes, absolutely. We met a year back. I said, yeah, precisely. So it's not that you always remember. The aspect that you, at least the vibe that you give me, is two dimensions. One is, I think you met Lakshmi and Ira also in one of the places, and Lakshmi said, oh, doesn't he look like? So we have a common friend exactly like him. So that fits well. And that's the other, the more connections you have in the memory, the more you recognize. And the second one was clearly, you stand out in being straight. It's straightforwardness in the sense of it's not honesty, it's being simply what you are. And most of the time I'm like that. I'm just what I am. I don't want to digress, but I still want to give you one example. So when we got married recently, it was like 26 years back. So recent marriage, both of us visiting some places, and some uncle or auntie asking me, Vijay, do you want to have tea? She's a Malayali, so Malayali, and I would say yes if I wanted it, and no if I didn't. She actually said, "Oh, how can I say yes just like that?" I said, "What do you mean?" They asked me, and I said, "Yes, because I want it." No, 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 it's only courtesy. You're just supposed to say, I had it now, or whatever. So that's that, being straightforward. It's not about being honest, it's not about being good or whatever, just straight. So it's easy to connect with when you're straight. And that's what I see in you. And that's the other reason. So one is you look like Swapnil, so it's connection. Second is very straight when we discuss anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, more connections there is, the easier it gets. But I think it's
Yes,
two ways, Vijay. So I think after I met you, all our conversations, it's almost like, the role that we have in the office goes off, and we're connecting as
absolutely.
individuals.
As
Yeah.
absolute, as two human beings, we are connected, and not role is, I always used to say as RBIP, I said, okay, if I leave this border of the office and go stand outside, and if I say to an unknown guy, I'm what we call internally P for president, I'm RBIP, he will say, what? What does that mean? How do you eat that? Or how do you deal with that?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But like fanboy moment many times is how do you keep such a simplistic and simple way of life?
Actually, yeah, that's the other question I get. I mean, in different shapes, not exact words. Essentially, I have liked few things in life, and I keep on doing that, which happens to be also the one needs to recognize what's your strength, and if you can work on it, it's always the best. While we get our appraisal from our bosses to work on something which is weak, you can take a call at certain point in time whether you want to really touch that week or not at all, because it probably doesn't make sense. But these are your, in the modern English they call it, these are your superpowers,
Hmm.
or I would simply call it, these are your degrees of freedom. So my degrees of freedom, as you touched in the first question, was my ability to grasp. So I just do that. I read science, still get into science, still get into what are the new activities happening. So books or movies, a whole lot used to be connected to science in the past. And the second dimension I like is sports. And I kept my life minimum to that. So just go jogging, go swimming, whatever activity I can do, I just love it. So when you can keep that as simple a dimension, I just do two dimensions. Study, I mean, as I now think of me as a kid, study or play, and nothing more. No watching movies as a kid, no having any, extra secret things which you cannot tell to your parents or your grandparents. There was no such thing with me. So it was easy to deal with. And that remained throughout. And that's probably why one sees me as a simple or approachable, or I would call it direct person to connect with. But
Wow.
that's it. So I didn't change. I think that's the key.
Mm-hmm. You brought up a very interesting topic, and you mentioned one thing like growing with, as kids, you had only two things, two dimensions, and it was easy for you to share whatever you're doing with your parents and grandparents.
Yeah.
I think we come in very early into that segment where any podcast with me is always there's one deviation that we take to saying how is it growing up.
Oh, okay.
So any experiences, any adventures that you'd like to share from your growing up age?
Yeah, so it was easy, as I said, and so the memory that I have of very young age is at least carrying some, books from library. I still remember that I was carrying a book on philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
When I was maybe sixth or fifth grade or something like this. I went and said the name wrong of the author because I had by hearted while going. Anyway, my dad is a professor, so was a professor at that college at that time, and librarian was our neighbor also. So I knew the librarian, so I went to the uncle. I said, "Dad wants this book," and I made a mistake in the author's name. Then he corrected me. That's how you should say it. For instance, that. But then while coming on the way back, I'm reading that book, trying to read that book. Let me put it this way. So one, two sentences, and I'm off. I don't have an understanding of what the author is trying to say. So some of these are very interesting, dimensions. So as in the library, or the heavy in the sense of not the weight, but a philosophical, or some interesting deep books is what one needs to one could get a handle on, hands on rather, when you are growing with Professor Dad. This is one dimension I remember for a long time. So the other one was I was trying to. He's also an author, so he's authored many books. So I was also trying with my friend. Let's write a story. So we started writing a story of our own, and how should we author that? So what kind of characters in the story? So this is another one. Maybe I was grade 4, grade 3 at this time. Yeah, so it's more of books and more of playing, creating your own games, creating your rules. But it's like an ordinary life at my age, right? So now Now there's television, now there's phones, now life is different. So it was always physical activity on the ground. So it was not at house. I remember when I came back from school, keep the school bag away and simply go to play. That was the regular routine. Before it's
Yeah.
dark, come back.
Yeah, it's only like it's only after the the lights come on is when my mom used to say, okay, enough of play now. You have to get your homework done. Come inside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So have
Yeah, with
you?
the lights, we had to be back home. Exact rules. Yeah. Because you didn't have watches. So you don't want to ask people what time is it. So
Yeah, yeah. No,
if the
you,
lights are
you didn't
switched
have
on.
watches. Moms were watches. Or somebody at home would call and yeah, that's the indication. Or you would get hungry.
Or you get hungry. Actually, I remember that, my goodness, yes. When you're physically exhausted, while you still don't want to go home, you realize the hunger the moment you touch the door. Then I'm straight in the kitchen looking for what's for dinner, what's for dinner. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like summer holidays, we used to leave house at 6, come back at around 7:30, and yeah, straight to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Go there, find whatever is there, eat, and then get scolded as to you should have washed your hands, before you put
Yeah, yeah,
anything
correct.
here. And then you're like, okay, and then things used to be fun. So, what's your favorite story from childhood? Ones that maybe your parents or somebody else that asked you or told you,
A story as in
like the
so
one they listened. Yeah.
yeah, one you listen. Actually, many stories, but I realized a pattern, and that pattern I can tell you. So in these are when I was really young. So basically, there is a demon who cannot be killed, as you would want to kill with whatever bow, arrow, or
Hmm.
any stuff that you may have, because his heart or his soul or his life is in some place somewhere else, and then only a guru who knows that somewhere else. So you have to go pray to that guru, and then he appears or he's there, and then he tells you the secret. Go 30 miles there, go to the north, then there's a well, then there's some animal, whatever the animal is, and if that animal is connected to this demon, or that whatever stuff is connected. So if you break that, or if you release that animal, or whatever the stuff is, and then this demon is dead. So this kind of story. So where at least one part is not so straightforward, and you need to go and ask someone, and you need to be really a nice person. Only then can you ask someone, because there are so many people who have tried that, either to let's say win the half the kingdom or win the princess. That's the other side of the reward, right? So this way, many stories of this basic plot.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't know if they exist now or not.
And I think there are lesser versions of it, but I
Yeah,
don't think it ceases to exist. So Panchatantra or small
yeah,
Jataka
yeah,
tales, so all those continue to exist. But yeah, I think the stories have always been the most favorite. So
yeah.
sitting, Aji's lap, sitting and listening.
Yes.
Sometimes she used to, she used to fall asleep, and I used to look at, okay, what next to the story, and like then also fall asleep. So simple life back then.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been, like as and when I see you, I've also looked, tried to look at your LinkedIn just a minute before we actually started recording this, and it looks like there's been a lot of places where you've been the leadership in the leadership space. So how did that happen? And I feel for you it's a very natural progression.
Yeah. So, I always conveyed to, when I was in different positions, whenever you think of building a career, you need to ahead of your HR or your boss. Now I'm talking of the modern work life. Ahead in the sense of you need to know what you want. Because if something comes to you as an opportunity from someone else, and if you say, I will think over it and let you know, and then if that let you know has in negation, saying, no, I can't do it because of something. You already lost the point. Instead of going to that state, if you already know, saying, I would rather be there, then you are chasing HR and boss saying, I want to do that. I want to do that. Why do you want to do that? Because I'm capable. Because then it's a different one. Then you are selling yourself. So in that sense, I mean ahead of, because then you have decided yourself saying that's how my career should be. And in most cases for me was that. Now to take this example right now, I'm in Singapore, Bosch ASEAN head. About 5 years ago, or now maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I had asked HR in Germany. My HR is always in Germany. That gentleman is retired now, saying I have now finished 6 years of RBI. I think I worked in RBI for 9 years, and then CI in between, and in Germany, and then here. So then I had asked him, saying, I want to be in a region like ASEAN. Can I be Singapore president? It's an equivalent position. He said, no, you are a technical guy. I would rather put you onto the board of IT of Bosch. So he did that. And he said, don't ask me again. But I had asked Singapore back then. And now, as a surprise to me, the board member approached me and said, Vijay, would you like to take that position because it's coming up? I had absolutely no doubt that I will say yes. So it was very clean. I had asked about 6 years ago, or maybe 7, but I got it now. I got it last year beginning. I got it, I got to know about it in October 22. And Jan 23, I was already in Singapore. So on one hand, okay, you can always say you need to be lucky, but the point is, if you have done these equations in your head, I would do that. Further, I need this. I would do this one next. If you have looked at 3 possibilities or 4 possibilities, it's unlikely that your boss or HR is going to give you the 5th one, which you have to say no. Rather, you are selling them these 2 or 3 possibilities. It's very likely that they also connect saying, okay, yeah, you do it.
Yeah, there's a very strong recall value.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did it start, Vijay? How did this journey with leadership start?
This is a difficult question. So, because I cannot exactly say when, it can go back to thinking of school, because in school, while I was not, 10th grade is the highest grade of that school. So it's not that always a 10th grader stands and says the prayer, right? And the others repeat. So I started doing that from 7th grade onwards. So all the other kids were following when I said the prayer. So it was back then also I had to know the prayer by heart, or if it was a yoga on 15th of August, 6 o'clock in the morning, you're doing yoga in front of some dignitaries in the school when you are a 6th grader, 7th grader. I was there. Or any such thing, right? So any such activity at school, you are called out or you want to be ahead. So this is one way of looking at it, because I liked it, not that it was forced. Or the other way to look at it much later in the career is, at a point of time in Infosys, I conveyed to my boss, look, I want to be head of this unit. And he said, why? I said, it's now been 2 years. There's not a single response to RFP or proposal which has gone in this technology space, which either I have not written or I have not reviewed. He said, what? I said, yeah, you take a look. He didn't know that. He said, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Okay, so because I was so focused on that technology, that everything that happened in Infosys on that technology, I knew it. Either I was myself responsible or I was reviewing that. And he liked that. He said, okay, then when we make those changes, technology-based changes, I get you that. And that happened. So it's just that same thing. You are, if you are passionate about what you're doing, you're always thinking ahead of what someone else may think about you. And that falls in place all the time. All the time.
So you brought in this word passion. So
Yeah.
apart from leadership, apart from the roles that you play, what else are you passionate about?
Wow, that's easy. That's the technology one I talked about, because I think technology creates the opportunity. There's a very nice TED talk and also has a big meaning to it. It says, if you now think of humanity 400 years, just 400 years ago, 500 years ago, when science was not the base, right? There were witches, there were ghosts, there were gods, there were priests, there were exorcism, there were all the kind of stuff. And that was real. If you imagine yourself living back then, this was real because there was nothing else known.
Mm.
And that is so difficult because you have only few possibilities. And sometimes you feel if you're on the wrong side of the situation, if you get the short end of the stick, then you must be feeling, what the heck? Why did I get into this situation? And then step by step, science tries to give some more meaning to it, some more option to it. So science always has been sorting things out or giving you multiple possibilities. In fact, today we live in an era where many things which were, let's say, unsolved are being solved, or they're already solved, towards health, towards now solving some of the environmental issues, towards looking at what is the right way of living so that we don't be burdened to the earth. Many things are just getting resolved by themselves. Now the question is our following. That's a different story, but the fact that science is able to do that is so extremely important. So science or technology or however you want to call it is the passion that I had, and that's what I pursue all along. So that's been the dimension, apart from connecting to people, or as you call it, leadership. I just call it being able to be with people. That's the other important dimension, which leadership is a big word. And that's these two dimensions is what I do at work.
Wow, again, we're coming back to two dimensions.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So generally, what's the secret with connecting with people so easily?
I get positive, and there are different types of people. So some like to be by themselves, and then they feel very energetic. It's just personalities. If I don't connect with people, I lose my energy. I feel, what's happening? I feel it worse and worse. Let's put it this way. So I get my energy from conversing with people. So that's it. Nothing more. So that's a positive energy. So I look for it.
Wow. So I think completely agree on that. Like, when you meet people, their energy meets you first.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
things can move after that. So also, looking at you as a person with technology and person with leadership, if this would have not happened, what else would have been an alternate career for you?
Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting one actually. So at some point I liked sports, but I can't say. Now the sports is so competitive. But at school days, I was good at certain sports, so that could have been one possibility. Or, again, going back to technology, if I was not to become engineer, because this was more or less my dad's decision. My brother is a doctor, and I'm an engineer, and those were the paths back then. And the good part is it was easy for any one of us to do any of the fields. So that was thanks to the upbringing. So he decided saying, I do engineering. And that would have been the other choice, that I would have been a doctor. It's people,
Yeah.
because it's looking at people, and again, it's science because it's medicine and so on. So not those. It's difficult for me to imagine, but I would like to be, let's say, teacher, because then I get to connect with several people. May not be junior classes, because that's tough.
When you said teacher, and I could also imagine you in class, with the board, kids there. And the first question that I had was, Vijay cannot be a strict teacher.
Yeah, that's why it's tough. Yeah, exactly. Because I would like the student to understand, and I would want some passionate students, and that may be tough at that younger age. because they're more about exploration and being naughty and so on. So this will take, for me, I will have to be a little more old to to be that teacher for even younger kids. But at college is good. College level kids is good.
Yeah, college level would have been very interesting to see you in that. So, like any other experiences with engineering? Because when I did engineering, halfway through, I was like, I don't think this is my cup of tea.
Oh, okay. No, I liked it really. So, oh, many things that I could say. I had some of the peculiar ones I can tell maybe because they're interesting. So sometimes the differentiation when the teacher brings in and in a very harsh way, it hurts, but it's important. So we had a problem of fluid flow, mathematics and fluid flow understanding, and it's a basic problem. I think most of the class got it right, but the teacher had given most of the class D grade, like A, B, C, D. And we were very, very, very curious, saying, what the heck is it? I compare with the other guy, hey, it's the same answer. Hey, it's the same answer. And then sort of a gang, all of us went to the teacher. I mean, in his next class, we just all said, how can that be? Because there's no other answer to this question. He said, you guys are becoming engineers. You are not, let's say, it's not a maths problem that you solve like in school and you get a good grade. I wanted to know what's the pipe size, and there are very specific pipe sizes. So for instance, if it was 49.53 was the answer, he says that's rubbish in engineering because you need to use a pipe. And what DIN standard, if you had just mentioned the next DIN standard pipe, I would have given all of you A grade. So this is one thing I remember, and that was a big lesson. I said, yeah, of course, this is true because this was a piping related, engineering related issue. And you can't say the pipe size is 49.53, whatever. I don't have the exact numbers. This was one I remember, very interesting learning. The other one was, it was for me. So I had a habit of doing a lot of maths in my mind and then writing the second step and the fourth step when you're solving something. So this was electrical engineering. Second year has all basics of all kind of engineering the way I learned. So in that electrical one, there was one problem to be solved and current and something. So as usual, I did very fast. By the way, so when it was maths, it was always fast for me. So just to relate back to that, in 12th grade, I used to finish all my maths papers in half the time, and I was solving the whole thing. So if you say solve any three of the five, I would solve all five. So all of the paper from one to the end, if it was 3 hours exam, I would solve it in 1.5 hours and give it the paper. I didn't want to review it because at least of the 5, 3 will be correct. So, and I used to give the paper. So that's the same style. And this was just second year engineering. So I did the same style. And the teacher called me. He didn't give me a grade. Everybody else got the answers back. And I said, shit, where is my paper? I asked him. He says, you must come and meet me in my office. Now, this is engineering. So I went after some time to his office saying, what happened? He says, have you copied from someone? I said, no, why? I can solve it now if you want. Okay, solve it. He actually asked me to solve it. I solved again, and gave it to him. But why do you skip steps? I said, because there's no point in writing left, right, left and right, and then 4 divide here, and then again right. Why do you write so many things? Okay, fine. I still don't agree with your argument. I give you a B grade. I felt bad, but at least he gave me my paper back and not A. I got a B grade. But these two, I will remember for a long time because sometimes, and that's the difference when you go from school to college, engineering college is basically the practicality of the situation or what is the expectation of an engineer. So there's some more comes in than just solving a maths problem, and that's the learning from those.
Wow. So when you were doing engineering, were there too many branches, or what branch of engineering did you study?
Yeah. There were many. There were all computer science was not there. So we had only electrical, mechanical, civil, of course, and chemical. Chemical was exclusive because this was a institute called UDCT. Now they changed the name. So chemical engineering is not chemistry, because many times it gets mistaken. You can do chemistry in that, of course, but it's engineering. Just for the listeners, so it's the operations that you do in a chemical plant. So reactions, distillation, drying, filtration, all of these need a process design. Mechanical design is, let's say, done by a mechanical engineer. How do you give specifications saying what kind of pressure will be built in this reaction? So you need to understand and what kind of flows, and so fluid dynamics, thermodynamics. Okay, let's differentiate two things. So as a chemical engineer, you have thermodynamics almost maximum. No other engineering subjects or streams have thermodynamics as high as that. Or we had maths in all our 8 semesters, which is also really rare. I think 7 or 8, 7. So that's quite high. In other engineering branches, the maths goes off in maybe second or third year. So these are two differentiators, but this is more of what can be called as process engineering in some other countries. And so that's what I did, chemical engineering. This was also, in a sense, there were only 40 seats in the whole of India, and if you are one of the toppers, then you get to go there. So I thought it must be something good. So I joined.
Oh, wow, wonderful.
Yeah.
So, did you ever miss class? Mass bunks, were they on the cards?
Yes, in second year. In second year engineering, we did miss class because that was supposed to be that way. First year you do everything. Second year you are now, let's say, senior, so you can decide what to attend, what not to attend. Third year again is very important because based on third year you get your jobs. They don't wait for fourth year results. Because these are very far and few engineers coming with this kind of degree. So third year is important. Fourth year you just have to clear it and then you're out. So first and third you must study. Second, you can let go and understand life.
Oh, wow. So what did you do to, second year understanding life?
Not much, no. No. As I told you in the beginning, I didn't have many other dimensions. So it's actually, if we ever bunk classes, this was playing something. Playing cricket, we were in the hostel there, or playing carom, or table tennis, any of those things, nothing.
So what's your favorite sport?
I like sports in general, yeah, all the time.
So among that, cricket, you mentioned cricket, carom, and one more thing. Which one's your favorite?
Yeah, so no, there's no
favorite.
That's a difficult one. There's no favorite sports. It's like beggars can't be choosers. In that sense, you come to almost, because you have to think of back then, sports facilities were not available. I did not know how table tennis table looked like. So I used to read newspaper as a kid. I would start from the last page, which was sports page back then. I had probably read, okay, who's the champion playing table tennis, but I don't know what that table tennis stuff was. You don't get to see it. Tennis, you know it as you read it. Sometimes picture in the newspaper, but there are no tennis courts in the town I grew up. So this is, in that situation, beggars, because the only stuff available is football or cricket, because that's easy and it's available everywhere in India. So when we got a chance to do many other sports, it was just important to do those sports. So whatever comes your way, you play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think by the time I saw TT, like the entire this thing, I think I was already in my pre-university. I think that's the first time I saw it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And cricket was default.
That's a good one you said that, because I saw it being played when I was still in school, but this was a college table, and I was in the awe of saying, "Wow, that's how they play." Or badminton on a proper wooden court. Badminton in general, in the air, at the ground, it's also easy, but on a proper wooden court with net in between, this was also, I said, wow, that's amazing how that real shuttle is.
Oh, yes. And generally, like you said, wow. So what happening or what not happening in life makes you say wow?
Oh, simple fresh morning makes me say wow.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So it's easy to get there. It's basically when you are. I mean, I call it. There are two types of expressions, and maybe there are more. But I always divide the world into two types. In fact, there are two types of people: those who divide the world in two types, and those who don't. So the two, yeah, expressions is the expression of body and the expression of, let's say, word as we speak now, or the mind. And when you are able to express freely, that freedom is so important. So it's, your ability to have the vocabulary and relate to the topic that one is addressing, so that you are able to express, is so important. You are not curtailed, you are not bound by something, you are not hesitating because of someone is going to say something. This is an expression, and that's so positive. And the bodily is the one I say this. There's something called free run. I don't know if you, or parkour. These
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of,
The ones who jump and
yeah,
move.
yeah. If you see the flow with which they run, it's amazing. So, or any sports. Sports is about expression of the body and the skill of that. So it's a very nice expression. In fact, I also, so being a techie, right? So sorry for digressing, but just
Mm.
one to that. Basically, I tried understanding what the hell is a skill.
Mm.
So when you play carom, now you can't say my mind really calculates the friction of that surface and what is the pressure required on the striker or table tennis, whichever sport. And then I do that calculation, and then I hit the striker, and then the coin goes in that hole. It's not possible. It's just the skill. So what is the skill, and how does one build it? In fact, there's a very nice set of videos I watched them, and fairly recently, to answer these questions from neurology. So Professor David Eagleman, American professor, he has few videos on YouTube on understanding brain, and there he actually exactly talks about skill. So he says here is a youngster, he's able to put the glasses up and glasses down in whatever seconds. And when he tries, he has to keep each glass. I would also end up doing, and then I can't collapse them so neatly because we don't have that skill. And when that kid does it, it's done. So he says this is where the neurons in the brain make a fixed connection. And that gets you to that level of expertise. In fact, we have cats, right? So I actually observed
Mm.
how the cat jumps up on the cupboard.
Mm-hmm.
And now the cat for sure doesn't do any mathematics, I can imagine. But our cat really looks at the top, looks at where he is, looks at the top. Twice I have taken a full video of that to understand how is he doing that. And then he's at a spot in between where all his four legs on that cupboard at 90 degrees to earth. So he has nothing there. But then the momentum is so high that he's just going up with the next part of that momentum or that run. But he knows he can reach there. And that calculation is again, it's it's only a skill. And the cat has built skill from being baby to a grown-up cat now. So I've taken a very nice video and I said, okay, this has to be something different. That skill has to be, and that's that expression. Sorry for digressing so much. So your expression or the freedom that you change expression to freedom, the freedom that you have to talk to express yourself on talk, so that you feel excited about it or wow about it, and the freedom that you have about the body expression, which is a sport.
Wow. And this is an amazing answer. And when you were talking about cats and also
Mm.
about carom, so I was observing that still the engineering side or the technology side is on the science side is very passionate in you. Saying, "Oh, I don't know
Yeah.
the friction, I don't know the angles." If I was there, I would have just sat down, hit a striker.
Yeah, exactly. No, but that's correct. Exactly what you do is correct because we don't calculate really. We just
Yeah, absolutely.
build the skill. Yeah.
Yeah. And like when I explain it to people around skills and other things, I think I get to flow with my writing. So poetry is one of the places where I get
Yes,
to
it was.
get to the flow.
Yeah,
And for me, it is like very difficult to explain how I do it. It happens. That's the only
yeah,
thing I know.
yeah.
Yeah, it just flows from there.
Yeah, that's that important point or moment. You can touch to that moment as you for you the poetry. I know your books also. So essentially, every expert player, you can say it in a layman's language, gets an extra second,
Mm.
extra half a second ahead of the ball, and the batsman is able to read the ball before it's bowled, sort of. And these are those extra. If there's no other way of definition, then you can say they get extra time. Okay, this if this is understood then, but as you said, it just happens.
It just happens. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried to do engineering to say how do I write. I miserably failed at it, and I said, okay, it's a gift that's come to me. I just accept the
Yeah,
gift as it is.
yeah, absolutely. That's your superpower, the
Oh
new
yeah,
English.
absolutely, absolutely. And so Vijay, I want to also check in this space. So you said after, like if you move out of the organization's doors and come outside and stand, uh, and you're no longer the president or the one with a role in the organization. How would you describe yourself to a layman? So if you were to introduce yourself to a layman, how would you do that?
If, if I was not right,
Mm. As in, like your role is over. As in, like on Saturday.
if it was that.
Okay, who's Vijay on a Saturday morning?
Oh, so I very good for thanks for asking that question because I had to sort of answer that when I joined Singapore office last year this time, and exactly what was one of the first ones in a town hall meeting was who are you sort of to answer who. So if you and I did think a little bit deeper. Sorry again for the long answer, and you can cut it when you need to do the podcast. But basically, our explanation of who we are is a very interesting thing because it's about the story that we are and what are these stories. So as you asked me through this session now, whatever I remembered, and these are the stories that either we make ourselves connect to those and we believe them in a stronger way again. Like when I say I do only sports and I do only education or reading. Okay, that's a story, and that's a story I've built by saying either thinking it again and again, saying it again and again. So I have strong belief, and I do that. So it's a sort of convincing yourself in the beginning, but living that in the end. So you live only that. So that's those stories that we tell ourselves. Those become extremely important. And either we are still building ourselves. So for youngsters, so they need to tell a story for themselves, saying that's what Vijay is, and then live up to that story, and that you become. So so that freedom exists for each one of us, and to be able to find that saying that's my story, I'm going to tell first and live up to it and become that, or I have it because I've been telling it for ages and I live that, and therefore I have it. So because we have many facets, but we end up describing like this. So when and if I retire, uh, I first of all I would still be connected to multiple companies. I would want to. I mean, that's my story now. I'm building up. Saying, okay, I would be on the board of a couple of companies. I would rather work and give this knowledge and technology, differentiation, leveraging technology, artificial intelligence, IT world, all of that stuff that I've learned. I could add value leveraging that and see some younger management team coming up and delivering that. So this could be one possibility. Or as I said, I could be in taking some classes to management or any other engineering schools or whatever schools there are. As I see, this is the story I'm building up because I maybe 2-3 years more and then I may have to retire. But in the end, if you say beyond that, what is it that you will tell? The moment you say, who am I? You have to start telling a story, because there's no other way of describing. Otherwise, I'm just a human being. For beyond this earth, if I go and tell, oh, I'm a human being from Earth, okay, from solar system, that's my story there. But here, there's nothing more than being able to connect to a sort of defined, well-defined story. So, okay, I'm a whatever, I'm a person living in Bangalore, I'm an engineer, if that's what I want to tell afterwards. But it's a difficult question. What would I say after I retire, and if I don't talk of any kind of activities that I do? Yeah, very tough one. Apart from, what would you say? Yeah, apart from saying I'm a human being, I don't think I spoke to you on this, but I had to, at some point of time, I had to come up to a definition of respect. And I had my own definition that I came up with, saying, okay, somebody else has all the five senses. I have all those five senses. Maybe our degree of smelling is different, degree of hearing is different, but basically we have been given senses. We are human being, and the difference is the thought process. That's addition to the senses that we have, and the thought process make us do the decisions and so on, right? So, can I imagine another thought process? And thought process comes about because of the kind of experiences we have gone through in our lives. So it's possible that Sunil has gone through a completely different set of experiences, and I've gone through a completely different. So I have a thought process which is built on A, B, C, D. Yours is built on D, E, F, G, whatever. And then we end up with different decisions. And the moment you are able to think that way, saying, yeah, I can imagine somebody else can decide like this, that's good enough respect. Because you can't say he's lying, he's wrong, he's something. That's his decision. That's good enough. So it's a very difficult question to say beyond this, saying, well, okay, what am I? I have five senses and a process, thinking process.
Oh, wow. Even there, an engineering answer is what I'm getting.
Yeah, I know. This will come all the time, because that's my ethos.
Oh, wow.
There was a nice statement I had heard. The world is not made up of atoms. I had read this.
Mm-hmm.
It's made up of stories.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. World is made up of stories, and we make up stories every day, every
Yes.
second of our
Yes.
space. And our identity is forever changing. Your identity, maybe when you're 10 years old, to an identity now would be completely different. And
Yes.
sometimes we
Okay.
wear different hats. You're the father, you're the husband, you're the son, you're the one at the office, and you're the friend even at the office, you're the mentor, you're the tough boss at some point.
Yeah.
Beyond all that, like I said, we are sensory organs, and also maybe my part of it is more of the human space. The processing system plus some compassion elements
Yeah.
also comes
Emotions.
into
Yeah.
place.
You can add emotions to that. So I have a thought process, I have senses, I have emotions. Yeah. Or they talk of nowadays three systems. If you talk again technology, the limbic system, and yeah, okay.
Wow. So I think, yeah, we talked about a lot of topics today, and I would like to maybe just give you this space, saying, do you have any questions for me?
No, actually, I liked the fact that you decided and you made that change and you are successful. And it's not about success or failure. You have, because we have been in touch. So it's not that you gave up and said, oh, this is not working. I think from day one, I could see that confidence you saying, "Ho jayega, ye to hone hi wala hai." So this has to happen, this will work. And that's quite amazing, because there's another youngster I will not name in RBI who said he wants to join CSR. Now, since you talk CSR is on my head. So I asked him, go get approval from your parents. Such a young guy, if you want to go into corporate social responsibility, I say your career is over. How will you come back and join into some strong engineering field? At least that's what I could think. So I said, every time he will ask me, Vijay, how about me getting into CSR? Have you asked your parents? I used to ask him, very young guy. And then one fine morning, he said, I have asked my parents. I said, what do they say? They're okay with it. said, okay, then join. Because I thought he's just excited by the fact that he wants to, let's say, make the society better. But to make the society better, to solve world's problems, sometimes we don't have the wherewithal as an
And
individual.
with,
So
yeah,
yeah, but I also same. I liked his passion to it, and he came into it for sure. So in the same spirit, I was surprised when you said, "Oh, I want to leave big boss job." There would be million people at least who would want the job that you left, and
absolutely.
that was amazing. Yeah.
It's been a fun journey. Like I've had to bounce off ideas with my mom first, and then
Yes.
get approval, and uh, I think long conversations into the night, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Lots of ups and downs in our emotions, and suddenly she's like, "If you feel like you're doing it, you go for it. I feel you have it," and then it just happened. And continues to be a great space, Vijay. I think I miss a lot of the office space. I think the people, the banter, the canteen, and much
Yes.
more. But I feel so energized every day, every bit of thing that I do. And
Mm.
there's definitely more than 2 degrees of freedom. So there's a lot of things that I do.
Yes.
It keeps me happy and keeps me going. So it's absolutely a joyous space. Every day, every second is a space of joy.
Mhm. Cool.
Absolutely. So I think with this podcast today, I think we are at the closure for this one.
Yes.
But I'm
Thank you.
always hopeful. So in the next 3 years, whenever you do decide to retire, you could also start off Pungi and Vijay Talks. We could run it as an episode series and see how it goes.